Hello, it's Simon Zutshi here, and in this property education video, I'm going to share with you how you can buy buy-to-let property with none of your own money. Now, whenever you hear a title like that, sounds like a bit of a scam or con, etc. But if you listen very carefully, I will tell you exactly how you can do that. Now, let's be honest here. When you buy a normal property, most properties, if you're buying a buy-to-let property in the UK, what you're going to do is get a 75% buy-to-let mortgage and a 25% deposit. And that's normally your money you have to put into the deal. Now, this is why a lot of people think they can't invest in property, because they either don't have that 25% deposit in the first place, or they've been investing and they run out of 25% deposits and have to stop investing in property. There are other ways of doing it. Now, the first way that this video is not really about this, but one way of doing it, obviously, and I've put some other videos about this on YouTube, is if you run out of money or you don't have money, but you know how to find really good deals. And by the way, write this down. If you want to become a successful investor, one of the most important skills for you to learn is how to find really good deals. There are deals everywhere, particularly in this falling property market that we have right now. Some people think we're going to have a property market crash. I don't think we're having that. I think we're having a correction. But in this falling property market where house prices are dropping and many landlords are selling up, it's very easy to find really good deals once you know what you're looking for. So assuming you know how to find a really good property deal, you could find the deal and find someone else who's got money sitting in the bank or sitting in the business doing nothing for them, and you do a joint venture where you've done the work, you find the property, they put the money in, and then you share the profit. You share the monthly cash flow, you share the long-term equity growth from that property. Now, a couple of words of warning: if you're going to be doing joint venture agreements, you need to make sure that you know the joint venture partner very, very well. When things go wrong, as things tend to happen in buy-to-let property, you need to make sure that you can work together to solve the solution. And also, you always want to put the agreement down in writing in case of problems, so you know exactly who is doing what and who's responsible for what as well. But joint ventures can be a great way of you buying property using none of your own money. But that's a bit of a cheat really, because there is still some money involved in that transaction. So what I want to do in this property education video is share with you how you could actually buy a property using none of your own money, or no money at all. So the way we're going to do that is with a special property investing tool called a lease option agreement. Now, again, when you talk about lease option agreements, many property investors have got views and opinions about these. There are lots of people on YouTube who talk about them who've never actually done them themselves, so they don't really know what they're talking about. And actually, if you put lease options into Google, up might pop a name, someone like Rick Ottam. He was an Australian trainer who used to teach this as a fundamental strategy in America and Australia and in the UK. And he got some very bad press because he was taken to court and sued by the Australian government for something like $18 million. Now, I know Rick quite well, and what actually happened was he had written a book called How to Buy a House for $1. Obviously, being in Australia, it was $1. And the authorities didn't like this. They thought it was misrepresentation. They took the meaning literally. And what he actually meant was you can control a property for $1 and then you can eventually buy it, which is what a lease option agreement is. However, they took him to court. Now, interestingly, there were about 6 different things they caught him for, misrepresentation, etc. Interestingly, he didn't have a single client complain against him. This was just the legislation, the government having a bit of a pop. And they took him to court and he pleaded guilty to the various things. Yeah, okay, fair enough, I've done this, slap on the wrist. He should have got about a $60,000 fine for what he did. But here's the interesting thing. They delayed the hearing of what the penalty was going to be by almost 2 years to allow them to change the law so they could impose this incredibly huge fine. So we're trying to make an example of him, an $18 million fine, something like that, crazy, crazy stuff. But actually none of his clients complained. And Rick was one of the people who I actually learnt some of my basic lease option knowledge from. So I always like to credit people who've helped me on my journey, and Rick was one of those people, amongst some other people as well. Actually, I learned mainly about options. I did my first option very much by mistake. I made a mistake in property. It's my solicitor, who was a very good solicitor at the time, she's not working anymore. She said, oh, you could do this instead to get out of this situation. I won't talk about that now. I'll probably talk in another video. Let's get back to how you can buy to let property with no money. So what we need to do, we need to find someone who's looking to sell a property. They really don't want the hassle of that property anymore, but when they're selling the property, they don't need the money from the property. Maybe they are a landlord who's retiring, and at the moment many landlords are selling up, right? It's a problem that's causing the market to come down. They're fed up, etc. They just don't want to be a landlord anymore. So we basically enter into this lease option agreement where we have the right to buy the property at some time in the future. We set the price today. Let's say it's a £200,000 value today. And the idea is we can buy it in the future. In the meantime, we take on the responsibility of the property. We look after it for the landlord so they don't have any more hassles. They can go off and retire, do whatever they want to do. In the meantime, we pay them a monthly rent. So we either get to use that property by living there ourselves if we want. So if you don't have a property yet, this is a great way for you to get your foot onto the ladder using a lease option agreement. You become what's called a tenant buyer in that property. Or we can rent the property out. And the idea is what we pay to the landlord is less than we can rent the property out. So we make a profit every single month on the difference between what we pay the landlord and what we rent the property out for, less any bills that we have to pay as well. So what this means is you can make monthly cash flow on a property that you don't actually own. And because you've got the right to buy this property anytime in, let's say, the next 3, 4, 5, 7 years time, whatever we enter the agreement with the owner, we have potential capital growth. Now, obviously, the property market is falling right now. Many people think there's going to be a property market crash. I don't think there's going to be a property market crash, but some people do. So you probably wouldn't want an option for 1 or 2 years. You might want a minimum of 3, ideally 5, maybe even 7 years time. And so if you buy today at 200,000, that's the price you agree. You're not actually putting the money down now. By the time you come to buy, the market's gone down and recovered a little bit. The price could potentially be more, the value could be more than the actual purchase price. So today's full price might well be a discounted rate compared to the future value of the property. Now we can use this, the fact the value has gone up, because we can potentially use some of the equity in the property as the deposit, which means you can buy your buy-to-let property using none of your own money. Let me explain how that works. So let's say you've got the right to buy this property for 200,000. If the value's gone up to, let's say, 280,000, what you could do is go to a bridging company. They're a specialist short-term lender, a bit more creative than a normal mortgage company, because if you bought from a normal mortgage company, you're buying at 200,000, they'd want you to put in your 25% deposit and get a 75% mortgage. So you're still using your money. If you go to a bridging company, if the value is high enough, they will take the value into account and give you finance based on the value instead of the purchase price. Now, they don't give you as much loan to value. Normally it might be 65 or 70% loan to value. So this works if the value of the property has gone up enough over the period of the option. Then let's say it's worth 280, they might lend you the full 200 to buy the property. In 6 months time, once you've owned the property using none of your own money to buy it, you then go through a conventional remortgage. Now, when you remortgage a property, the lender's not so bothered about what you bought it for. They're bothered about what the value is now and the rental income to make sure it's affordable. So in other words, if the value's 280, you can probably get a 75% mortgage at what, 210 or something. That's enough to pay back the bridging and the finance on that. Thus, you've got your property, no money down. So that's one of the ways of buying a UK buy-to-let property using none of your own money. There's another way. Now, let's say the capital growth hasn't gone up as much as you would have liked. And actually, you probably won't have done just one of these lease option agreements. When you understand how powerful they are and how much cash flow you can get. In fact, because you don't need a mortgage or a deposit right now when you enter a lease option agreement, it means you could secure one of these deals before the end of this year and have cash flow coming in as long as you know how to do it properly. And I've actually got some further training. If you click on the link below this video, I've got an in-depth training that explains exactly how you can find these and secure them and secure your next cash flowing property before the end of the year. Anyway, that's the training. Click on the link below if you want to come and do that, but watch the end of this video first. So let's assume the value hasn't gone up as much, but you've got a number of these options. Maybe you've got 3 options. And by the way, you could find one landlord who's got a number of properties they want to sell. You take on all of them on an option basis. So let's say you've got 3 of them and you've rented them out. You made cash flow between now and the end of the option period. But you know what? One of them is maybe better than the other 2. And, you know, as an investor, been investing 28 years myself, I know some of the properties in my portfolio, if I had a second chance, I probably wouldn't buy them. At the time, they seemed like a great deal, knowing what I knew then, but knowing what I know now, and with hindsight, I probably wouldn't buy some of those. So in this way, with a lease option agreement, you get to try before you buy. So out of the 3, maybe one of them is better than the other 2. So what we're going to do, we're going to say, okay, let's keep that one and we're going to assign the other 2 onto other investors. Now, that's one of the great things about a purchase lease option agreement, is that you can actually assign the benefit to someone else. So let's say the capital growth has not been as much. Let's say they've gone from, I don't know, 200 up to maybe 250 over the 5 or 7 year period. So to sell these properties that are worth 250, we're going to sell them at a slight discount to make them appeal to other people. So let's say we're going to sell them for, I don't know, £240,000. Okay. Now what happens is you're never actually buying these properties. You're assigning them to someone else. They remained in the owner's name. And what happens is the seller is going to get the 200,000 as per the agreement, and the new buyer who's coming in that's going to buy these, and they are getting a mortgage, they are putting their money in, they're going to be buying at 240. So what happens is the difference between the purchase price that you've agreed with the buyer at 240 and the 200, so the difference is 40, that comes to you. Now, if you've got 2 of these properties, 2 times 40 is 80,000. You should really do this in a company structure so that the company has the options. And then obviously you have to pay tax. So if you pay tax on the 80,000, you know, you're going to pay 25% tax on that. So that's probably what, 20 grand or so. You'd have 60,000 left over. So you've got 60,000 in your business and you've got one option to buy a property that's worth 250, but you can buy it for 200 as per the lease option agreement. So therefore, you use the money that you've got from the sale of the other 2 options as the deposit and the stamp duty and legal costs for the one you're going to buy. Because if you're buying a £200,000 property, you'll need about 50,000 deposit, 25%, and then about 10,000 for the stamp duty, legal costs, and those kind of things. So in this way, by securing 3 lease options that have gone up in value, you decide to keep the best one. The other 2 you assign on to other investors at a bit of a discount, so they're happy with that. The profit you make after tax is enough for you to actually put the money in to buy the property. So that's one of the other ways you can buy a property, UK buy-to-let property, using none of your own money. I do hope this video has been useful. If you like it, please hit the like button. That helps the algorithm. More people are going to see this. Do come and comment below. I'll answer as many questions as I can. And make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. I bring out lots of content. Sometimes it's specific strategies like this. Sometimes it's interviews with the successful investors to inspire your belief about what's possible. But all these videos are going to help you become a more successful investor. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon as well. So whenever a new video comes out, you're notified. Because some of the videos I put out are very timely. There's a special opportunity in the market, and if you watch it 3, 4, 5 months later, you're going to miss that opportunity. And also right now there's the opportunity to come and join me on some online training to find out more about purchase lease options and how you can profit with them. And I think they really are the best strategy for the current property market. So click on the link below this video, come and register that training. I'm going to share a lot more information with you about these very powerful property investing tools that are massively understood by most investors. And don't believe it's a scam, it doesn't work. It absolutely works. We always use solicitors to do everything properly. This is a great property investing tool, and it's this specialist knowledge that you need to know about to make sure you are making the most of the current falling property market, where we're seeing house prices dropping. It's hard to get finance. These lease option agreements are a perfect tool to use to help the seller who needs to get rid of the property and help you acquire a property to give you cash flow and equity growth right now without a mortgage, without a deposit. Everyone's a winner. So I do hope you liked the video. Click on the link below. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, it's Simon here. I do hope you've just enjoyed that video on YouTube. I hope you took lots of notes, and more importantly, you're going to take action. And what I'd encourage you to do is click on the link in the description below the video. I've got some live online training that's very relevant to the video you've just watched. come and register for that training. Join me live online, and you can actually get your questions answered live as part of that training. So take the opportunity to come and join me live online. Click on the link below and secure your spot before you miss the date. Take action right now. As ever, I encourage you to invest in knowledge, invest for skill. Enjoy the next video.